We're seeing a brand new strategy being deployed right now in the crypto space, with Coinbase starting their own ICO process with the launch of the Monad coin. Now, this is huge, potentially not only for what it means for Monad specifically and directly. Of course, we're going to be talking about that today. That is the point of the whole video. But there's also stuff coming in the future that I think could be huge and could kick us off for an insane 2026, particularly as it relates to ICOs on Coinbase. So stick around towards the end of the video. We are going to be talking a little bit more about that. But I did want to focus specifically on Monad because we have seen it come out. We're seeing it pull a ton of volume. We're seeing it actually up almost a 2x from what we were seeing at the pre-sale price, at least from what I've been able to find. Obviously, there's things that have been varying there, but from what I've been able to find for Coinbase, at least the pre-sale price, it's up about 2x, which is looking pretty good. Of course, we'll have to see how that holds, particularly in this really difficult market. So first off, we'll go ahead, we'll jump right on in. You can see here on the day, Monad up about 3%. It's actually the 99th place coin. It's just barely sitting here in the top 100. It does have $1 billion of volume in the past 24 hours though. You'll also see Monad has not been around for a week, so we don't actually have it showing up here on the weekly charts. It is just here on the daily charts. So again, we'll have to see how it goes. We can see here over the past hour or so, or if we're looking at the hourly candles, you'll see it's been out for about 2.5 days, maybe at this point, maybe actually just closer to 2 days. You'll see here market cap of about $500 million, up 60% since launch, which is pretty nice to see. You can see here the pre-sale price of 2.5 cents, which is what we were seeing from Coinbase. Again, we saw it actually take an initial dump right in the immediate term, but then since then it's seen a pretty strong move back to the upside. The strategy that they used to essentially ensure that price maintained pretty nicely was actually really, really strong. And I do think that this is a very interesting sign for what this holds in the future, meaning that we could potentially see more ICOs coming through Coinbase, which would be very interesting to see. You also see here $1 billion of volume in the past 24 hours. The volume holding up actually quite nicely, with the fully diluted valuation actually close to $5 billion at this point. Now, of course, you will see here that the max supply is 100 billion Monad, with the circulating supply just under 11% here. So this is a very, very, very dilutive coin that we will be seeing happening, and so we should expect to see a whole lot of sell pressure coming on over the next little while. So how this actually holds up over the long term is going to be very interesting to see, because there is such a small amount of the circulating supply actually out right now. As more gets unlocked, we can expect to see further selling pressure for the Monad coin. So I personally am a little bit nervous to actually jump into something like this, even though we have seen a pretty nice move to the upside. If you did get into the pre-sale, of course, this is, you know, a good move for you so far. And also we have some news as to why you may not be wanting to dump yet. Of course, this is not financial advice. This is not me telling you what to do. These are just things that I'm hearing on the internet. Take that for what it's worth. Now, you will see here also volume primarily between Bybit, Upbit, and Coinbase. Not surprisingly, Coinbase being, you know, kind of one of the larger ones, because it was, you know, that's where the ICO was done through. Now, the interesting thing that we're actually seeing with some of this news as it surrounds Monad is you can see here, this is the essentially screenshot that we were seeing from Coinbase on the Monad ICO. You'll see here it started on the 17th of November, ended on the 22nd of November Eastern time on both, and then you'll see the price of the token was 2.5 cents per token. Now, the thing that's very interesting here is you can see that their supply reserved for the public sale is 7.5 billion. The total supply is 100 billion. So again, 7.5% only going to the public sale. From what I understand, about 50% of the total token supply is reserved for the team and insiders. So that is a very, very large amount of the tokens that are reserved that we should be careful of, because they could get dumped at any point in time. Now, the thing that is interesting here as it relates to the public sale specifically is you can see right here that this is essentially kind of like what we would consider an anti-whale type of ICO here. The maximum you could put in here was $100,000. Now, again, to many of us, myself included, $100,000 seems like a ton of money. So this is, of course, you know, not really going to be an issue for most retail, but some of the whales who have millions, tens of millions, even hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto $100,000 is basically nothing, right? And so it of course helps with, you know, how Coinbase is doing this, because it makes it more attainable for kind of some of the more retail people within the crypto ecosystem to get into something. And I think that's part of the strategy that they're taking here, is that they're hoping that retail will hold on and be a little bit more, you know, kind of tight gripped with their monad than some of these whales, where they might buy, you know, 10 million day one and be selling 9 of it on a 2x like we are seeing right now, which would of course push a ton of selling pressure into the market. So that is, I think, a pretty interesting and a pretty clever idea of how they've actually structured the public sale here. Now, of course, you will also see there is that ever so slight asterisk here, subject to higher maximum thresholds for Coinbase One subscribers pursuant to the Coinbase token platform sale terms. So if you do have Coinbase One, which is of course how Coinbase does make a lot of their money, you would have been subject to a higher maximum bid size. Not totally clear what that would have been, but you will see for most people that it is like an anti-whale type of pre-sale, which I do think is a really good thing. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about as it relates to Monad is kind of the price prediction, right? What could we see actually happen here? Well, there's really 2 different things that we are looking at. First one being the market cap of $500 million. This is not, or just barely, a top 100 coin. There is an insane amount of room to run here for as it relates to this current market cap. However, there's the second price that we should be looking at here, which is the fully diluted market cap, which is about 4.6 billion. Now, this is of course a much larger number, and this is going to climb us way, way up the ladder in terms of, you know, kind of where this would be. If we go look at coin market cap, you will see that 4.6 billion would actually put us in the range of World Liberty Financial. So it would actually replace World Liberty Financial as the 25th largest crypto in the crypto space. Now, of course, we are seeing it as the 98th largest crypto. So this level of dilution and the selling that is probably going to come as a part of this dilution is going to be massive. So you do have to be very, very careful of that. I personally am going to use the fully diluted valuation, just because that to me feels like a more fair number to be using, because that is ultimately what will be circulating at some point. With that number being said, at 4.6 billion and Monad kind of considering what it is, if we see it actually do well and kind of hold up with some of these others, we could potentially see it hit, you know, maybe best case in the realm of Cardano, which is about a $15 billion market cap. That would be a 3x on the fully diluted valuation, of course. And then if we were to see something like Sui's here at about a 5.6 billion, that would be about a 20 to 30% rise on the fully diluted valuation. Now again, Sui's fully diluted valuation is going to be much, much higher. It's actually going to be closer to about 15 billion. So again, comparing apples to apples, we could again maybe see about a 3x from here on the Monad price appreciation. Now again, this is me just kind of giving you some approximations with that level of fully diluted valuation and the selling pressure that is going to be there. Generally what happens is, with the limited supply that we see right now, we could actually see some pretty insane moves. We could see, you know, 10x being possible, 5x certainly being possible. But as more of those token supply starts to unlock, that is where a lot of the issues start to get in. So I personally am going to be, you know, a little bit skeptical and a little bit just cautious as we get into some of this stuff, you know, because I am, you know, slightly worried about kind of that selling pressure over time, particularly where we're in a market where things are a little bit struggling right now, right? So that's of course one thing that I wanted to mention. Now, the last thing that I want to get into is kind of this secret thing that we could be seeing going on in the crypto space, and what we could be actually seeing going further on after the Monad token sale. So there's a lot of rumors circulating around that this is, of course, Coinbase's first ICO. How you participate in your actions that you conduct as part of this Monad ICO may impact further allocations and further ability to get access to ICOs in the future, namely the base token, right? There is of course rumors circulating around that there is going to be a base token. This, if it actually does happen, will be probably one of, if not the most hyped coin of 2025 or 2026. Doesn't really matter which year you put it in. It will be unbelievably hyped. And so a lot of people are kind of viewing this Monad ICO on Coinbase as a little bit of a dry run for the base ICO token, or the base token ICO, which would be very interesting. So there's a lot of people who are saying that, you know, depending on how long you hold, some people are throwing out 30 days, some people are throwing out 15 days. Again, this is not, none of this is confirmed. This is all just actually rumbling around the rumor mill. But there is, some people saying potentially that how long you hold could impact kind of some of your, I guess, like your cred as you go further along for that base potential ICO. So if you are interested and you are potentially looking forward to that base ICO, this could be something to consider for the Monad token if you did participate in the Monad ICO. I do think base is really, really interesting. I personally am going to be anxiously awaiting for a base ICO. And so that is one that, of course, I'm going to be factoring into my decisions as we move forward. So again, hopefully you found the information in the video useful. If you did, of course, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share, all that type of good stuff. It does, of course, really help me out in the difficult market that we're in, getting pushed to further people, getting more people to see my content, and hopefully share some of this valuable information. So also, if you have any comments, questions, anything like that, of course, feel free to drop that in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond. And also, if you are interested in trading any of the crypto, I don't actually have a Coinbase referral link in the description, but I do have a referral link to BTCC, Weex, as well as BloFin. BTCC currently does have a really nice deposit bonus of that 10% bonus on first-time deposits, which is a really, really good deal if you are looking for some free money to actually kind of increase your crypto holdings. That's a great way to do so. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.